Okay. So we started out yesterday. Thank you, Sequota, for getting us kicked off here with going over those new HTML tags, right? We learned what that lang en was, and we went over a couple other tags like the doc type, and then we learned about the meta information about different viewport widths and stuff like that. We learned about UTF-8, not just U8, but UTF-8, which is a character encoding that allows us to use different emojis and non-English characters like Chinese characters or any non-traditional alphabet characters. So we spent a little bit more time on padding versus margin, learning how we can kind of push elements away or make space between the border and the content itself with padding. We touched on ASCII a little bit, and then we also learned about those Emmet shortcuts, right? Where the one that we saw early on was the exclamation point enter. We also learned about using the period, typing in the class name, hitting enter, and having it generate out that div for us automatically. Reviewed again that ID can only be used once, and when we use a class versus when we use an ID. We learned about the viewport, that viewport height, the VH, and how we were able to get that bar all the way down. And then we started playing around with comments, right? We saw HTML comments already. Then we learned about CSS comments for the first time, right? Being able to use a /* or the command /, and that command / shortcut will become your friend. That command / shortcut will add in a comment in JavaScript, it will add it in CSS, and it will add it in HTML. And VS Code is even smart enough to know what type of comment, what syntax to use to make that commenting out. We got a little bit more practice with our # lining up with our IDs and our CSS, and the periods lining up with a class. We learned about that meta tag and how Internet Explorer is still a dinosaur and still kicking around, and why it's important to add in that IE = edge just to make sure the latest features are supported in Internet Explorer if our page ever got loaded on that. And then we learned a little bit about calc, right? How we can have CSS do some math for us and say, hey, we want the height of this to be not only 100 VH, but minus some pixels to leave room for that top bar up at the top of the screen and the links bar that we added in. Was there anything else from yesterday? We did learn about that Command + keyboard shortcut, so we can zoom in on our web page, make it a little bit easier to find our pixel alignment, and then we use that Command 0 to reset it back to 100% zoom. And we also practiced with a lot of nesting, right? We got our divs nested in our divs, but for the first time, we had a column in a column. And we learned the importance of having that row in place as well. And we touched on Emmet, yes, where we can use that period shortcut. And columns always have to go in a row. Sometimes we have our columns and our divs misaligned, our closing divs aligned, and we think we may have them in a row, but because our closing divs are off, that can also cause problems. Okay, before I dive into anything else today, the notes, the terms of review, all of that stuff, we are going to spend some time on your code. Did anyone not get their code functional yesterday and wants to spend some time on that? Or have a section of their code that is functional but wants another explanation or review of it? Really? You guys all got your sites working?
You got a couple
Okay.
in the chat.
Oh, okay. Sierra, go ahead and share your screen and let's take a look. Just a heads up, you're on mute, Sierra, if you're talking to us.
Okay, I see it moved my bar onto my other screen on the top. Okay,
Gotcha.
so let me just open this up. Okay.
All right. And go ahead and hit your go live button just so we can take a look in the browser.
Can you see this? Am I
No,
came up?
you'd have to bring it over to your other monitor.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me see. I thought I did it. I don't know if I'm doing that right. Oh, I did.
There you
go. Okay, so yeah, this is it.
Okay. So the
And
first thing that I notice, right, is that our alignment is off here and we've got some content kind of spilling over into here, and we
Right.
definitely don't want that. So
Mhm.
I'm going to request remote control.
Mhm.
And that might be on either monitor. Sometimes it
I
jumps
see.
around on you. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to go back to your code. And what do you think the first thing I'm going to tell you is?
My indentation.
You got it right.
Yeah,
Because
I know.
9 times out of 10, when we fix the indentation, we find the issues kind of glaring right down at us. So
Okay.
I'm looking here, and up until this line, I'm pretty happy with everything, right? A couple little things might be off, like this login is supposed to be indented one level because we opened the new div. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with all of this. But before we can even start, you kind of did something interesting. This div closes out here for the links bar. So now we wanted to create a new row that all of our like mega columns, right? Most of our page content was going to go in. But look what you did. You use a closing tag instead of an opening tag.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to take that div out, and now we can get to work on our indentation. So we go over a level whenever we have a new div, right? Any of the content inside of it. So this is going to come over one. Now, because this is yet another new div, we're going to go over another one here. And then I believe what you wanted to do was make another new row in here, but you did that same mistake. You got your closing div tag there.
I see.
So Shift Tab is going to bring your code over for you without having to manually delete it, because then you get into this weird space sometimes where like it's only one indented instead of two levels in. So anyway, why is this div here? Because this div row is inside the column. So even though we opened a tag here, we closed it out here. So this div class row is on the same level as the latest because they're both inside this column.
Okay.
But now we opened a new row, so we should be one level indented from this row.
Okay.
Now you open your div col 3, but you closed it at the same spot. So we don't need to indent this 6M or anything like that. Now for
Okay.
this col 9, you open the col 9, we have our content inside of it, which is indented a level, and then we close out that col.
Right. Okay.
Then we come down here and we're closing out this row, but we're slightly misaligned. So I'm going to bring that over. And now we've got some div soup going on. All of our closing divs were in there properly, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't know what this div is closing, let alone this div. So totally optional. That doesn't do the computer any good. But for us, I may just put in here end of first headline in col 9. And then I'm going to close this one out. And I'm going to say end of first row for headline. And that way it's a little bit easier to know, all right, we're done with this row. Now we're opening our next new row, and hopefully this becomes a little bit easier to clean up because we close the div here. This next div should be on the same level.
Okay.
Then it just becomes a practice of lining everything up from above. And we bring this div over, and that is, we hope, closing out our column. If we click on it, they both light up. We know that's in the right spot.
Okay.
And so we bring these over, and now everything should start to line up. We've got our div. We close this div. Now this is the end of col 3 for all latest headlines. That means when we come down here, we've got this col 6, and I believe our headlines are supposed to be inside that column. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit enter here. We're going to take our headlines and we're going to move that in. And then we're breaking an indentation rule. This div is closed out here. That means the next div should be on that level.
Okay. Yep.
Now we've got a closing div here, but hold on. What is this closing? It's closing our whole row. Are we done with our row yet? Not yet, because we still have to have our last col 3 for the ads. So we're going to take this out. And we're going to indent over here. And we're going to make sure this lines up, which it does. And now we've got some extra divs at the bottom that we got to make sure are all in good shape. So that's closing our col 3. And we know that because when we click on it, it highlights it. This means that this div is closing out our whole row, which means we need to bring this over to the row. And then this is closing out our container all the way up here. We still have to do some cleanup on the indentation to make all of that work, but I don't think that's going to cause you any issue. So I'm just going to put that over at the same level for now. When I save and go back over to your code, we're good to go.
Oh.
So I know that seems like that was a lot of work just for me to yell at you for your indentation, but you'll notice when we get your indentation right, notice everything just falls into place on this side. That may have just been one extra closing div or one of those slashes that was causing the problem. But when we invest the time into cleaning up our code, it often will fix our problems in our HTML.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I definitely have to work on that.
And hopefully that's a good review for you guys. If you're struggling with your indentation, sometimes looking at other people's code and going, all right, why are we indenting? How do we go in and manually clean that up? If we have time tonight, I'm going to show you guys Prettier, which will actually fix your indentation for you. You got to watch though, because it's a little bit of a crutch. So if you are still struggling with getting your HTML into the right place, it may not be a good idea to use Prettier yet, because doing that indentation is making your brain slow down a little bit and make sure you understand, hey, what's this div closing out? This div is in here just because VS Code put it in here, but can I match it up and make sure that my page is laying out the way that I want it to? Jen, if you want to share your screen, we can take a look. All right, this is looking really good. We're going to do the image a little bit later and show you how to add in the ads and do a little CSS cleanup. But everything looks really good in your browser. And you're on mute, by the way, if you're trying to talk to us.
Thank you. Yeah, I got stuck with the photos. They were so big and I couldn't remember how to undo them, and then some of them gave me like a little broken file thing and wouldn't even let me put them on there. So I was like,
Nope.
I'm just gonna quit before I throw this thing.
No problem. Yeah, this is great progress. This is
Okay.
totally on track with what we're going to be touching up.
Thank you.
Did anyone else need a little bit of help?
Max, I
Yep.
got mine, I mean, I left off where we left off with the, getting the left column. But when I was trying to play around with it on my own to like change some of the font size within that column, I think I'm struggling like with some of, adding in like my IDs and getting them to line up, so.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
go
the
ahead, share your
font
screen. Let's
size
take a
didn't
look.
look like it was actually changing.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay.
By the way, if you finished your site yesterday and sent it to me in Slack, you are also excused from class tonight. So if you want to peace out, you totally can. I would encourage you to stick around because we're going to do things with Google Fonts and an icon and stuff like that. However, you are excused from class tonight. So if you want to peace out, that's fine. We're going to be working on this project pretty much for all of class tonight. Rain, what's up?
Can you send me the link for GitHub? I use Unsplash for my image tags because I cannot find where I saved that at. I don't think I saved it yesterday.
The project that we're working on, you mean?
The photos in GitHub?
Oh, you can use the photos in GitHub, or you can use any images from Unsplash. But if you want to grab them from my GitHub, I just posted the link in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Tara, where are we at? You said you were trying to add in some font sizes. So font sizes, I think you were totally on the right track. Two things that we want to make sure we're focusing in on. One, we want to change the font size of the closest possible element. So because we have an H4 in here, the H4 styling is going to override whatever styling is coming from our ID because it's up in the parent. So what we want to do is we want to take this ID and we want to put it directly on this H4. The other thing we want to do is font size. Oh, you can use extra small. I didn't even know that was the proper value. So by just making sure that that ID lines up at the same spot, will make that styling apply properly. You are on mute, Tara, if you're trying to talk to us, I believe.
Sorry, I'm muted because my daughter's practicing her guitar. So when I put it in if I put the ID in the parent line, it doesn't flow down to the child line?
It will unless the element you're using has its own styling that comes with it,
Okay.
which is kind of a weird thing to say. Let me put it like this. So H4 has size associated with it by default in the browser.
Mhm.
But if we take this and we move it back up to our col9 and then make this like a span tag instead, watch, this is going to make a liar out of me and not work. You'll notice our styling, our small font size stays the same. That's because the span tag by default doesn't have any size information associated with it in the browser. So this ID will cascade down to these elements.
Okay.
But because H4 is known for having size associated with it, it won't override that because the parent won't cascade down over the child.
Okay, all right. Thank you for explaining that, because I get kind of confused on where I'm supposed to put and how I'm supposed to change like the styling and what lines.
And you know what? It's sometimes totally trial and error. Like I was fully prepared for this not to work and this styling not to cascade down or apply. So there's often times that I will try to apply some styling up at the parent level and it won't work. And then I'll come down to the child level and it will work. A really good example of that is in the row. If I wanted to text center here, and I hit save, oh, it will work there. There are times that I will try to put a text center on a row and it just won't work for me. And then I'll take that text center and apply it in a column and it will. So sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error just to figure out where, if it goes in the parent, if it goes in the child. Yeah, it really depends.
Okay, thank you.
Mo, I see your note. Are you ahead of where we are, where we left off yesterday? Because if you are, maybe what we're doing in class might fix your issue.
Ahead, no. So I was working on my own and I didn't save, and like so I kind of got back to where like before we added pictures and columns, and I just kind of got a little lost.
Okay,
that-
share your screen. Let's get you caught up.
All right, give me 1 second. I just got a new desk and my monitor, so it's my first time actually using this particular this new monitor we got. All right, can you see my screen?
I can.
All right.
Okay, so first things first, we start where not the first place that we see red, we start at the line above the first place that we see red. So first place I see red is right here. So I'm going to go up to here. What do I notice is missing on that line? Compare it to line 17.
Oh, another closing tag.
Boom. Now, because we put that in, VS Code's trying to be helpful, but I would bet that you've got that closing div somewhere further down. So we're going to take that out. We're going to rinse and repeat that right here. It started to go red here. We do need a closing arrow here, but this isn't red because of this line. It's actually red because of this line. So we need our closing arrow in there, and we take out our extra div. Oops. And we take our closing arrow here, take that out, and now everything's looking good. We got our links bar, we've got the end of the container, but that's a lie. Because if we click on that div, we can see this div is supposed to be closing out the container, but what does it think it's closing out? It thinks it's closing out the links bar. So what we need to do is add in another closing div here and say end of links bar. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now when we go live, we've got everything kind of back in place.
Okay.
Now, what you are missing a little bit of is, let me, where do we go? We back over here, we're over here, that's why. Is in our style.css, you've got a lot of work done in here, but you notice none of that styling is showing up over here.
Yeah.
So what normally is the case there is you are either missing this style.css or link, or you're doing it wrong. And that doesn't appear to be the issue. So let me go into your style.css. And one obvious thing is, like, we've got our background set here, but that is not coming through on our top bar here. Watch out on your casing. You've got a capital B here and a lowercase b here.
Oh, okay.
So watch what happens. We're just going to fix that there. And it looks like your links bar is cased right. So now when we go over, all of that CSS is magically applying.
Okay.
So just watch your casing there. I am going to post a link to the code from yesterday, just so you can catch up to where we left off, and that
All right.
might be helpful for other people as well. Just give me 1 second to do that. Oh, I don't have the classroom. So the live link unfortunately does not work after class is done, because when I close my laptop, you can't connect into it anymore. However, I am going to get better at adding our code into a link that I'm about to share at the end of every class, so that you can reference it after class. Second, sorry, my GitHub wants to fight with me. While I'm doing this, Ariel, do you want to pull up your notes and do a brief overview of them? You can share your screen.
Yep, give me just a second, pull them up on this one.
Yep, sorry. Posted the link in the chat if that's easier for you to find them.
I just pulled them up. I'm just having a hard time sharing screen here. Is there anywhere in particular, I know I can see everybody's in it, but anyone is stuck at a particular point in this? Or
Give it a
something that-
review, first of all. We kind of read through everything that Ariel has documented and see these notes are for you, right? Ariel knows how to make this site. I know how to make this site. Are these notes kind of helpful for you step by step to review?
So. All right, sorry, there's noise behind me too. So,
Amberlyn has a hand up.
oh, I can't even see it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had a question. Yesterday I had the right hand, or the right column line on there,
Mhm.
and it's not showing up, but it's in my code.
What do you mean you had it?
Like the thin gray line that goes down the page.
Once Ariel, I'll come back to you in a second.
Okay.
Leave your hand raised for me and we can share your
Sure.
screen. Does anyone have feedback on the notes in particular? I'm going to start a poll just to see if this is helpful.
That's the thing. I'd like to take notes for you guys. That's helpful, but if it's not, the more info you can give me, I can tailor it for the next TAs as well. I apologize for the background noise. Do you want me to put a poll up, Max?
I'm doing it right now for you.
Okay,
Yeah, I think this is really helpful, actually.
okay.
So I would say if you can vote in the poll, that will give us a good gauge, because we don't want to waste TA time, and they may be more helpful answering questions. But for now, go ahead and vote in the poll. And if you have any feedback on how we would like to see these notes be improved, dump that in the chat.
This is why Max is an instructor and I'm just here to make sure he doesn't skip spaces or, you know, ending tags, closing tags.
What do you mean I'm not sharing my screen?
Can I just say something real quick about the notes? It's just too
Yeah.
much. Okay, so I had submitted on like the class review sheet thing, but I can say it here too. I just was wondering if, because I noticed in our daily outline, like, we did that vocab, I think, for like the first 2 classes, but we haven't really touched on vocab. We've been doing our stand-up and I've been taking a little bit of notes on that, but it's kind of repetitive. So I was wondering if we can get like actual like solid vocab that we need for each you know, like maybe each week have like a vocab list that we can just use, so we can do like flashcards and stuff, and you know, maybe.
Yeah, the way I've done it kind of in past classes is spending time like at least once a week, having everyone brainstorm vocab, and then defining that out kind of together as a class. But I think that may eat up kind of classist. Wow, I just combined precious and class. That may eat up precious class time. So I'm thinking it will be better to like do a weekly vocab list and kind of maybe have that in a separate document instead of having it all brainstormed together. And then what I would suggest is maybe we spend the end of class Thursday going back to the vocab list and saying, hey, are there any terms that we use throughout the week that aren't on this vocab list? And then we can kind of go from there. So that way you've got a starting point, you've got them already defined at the beginning of the week. And then when we get to the end of the week, we can kind of grow that list if that works for everyone.
Max, can you still see the poll?
Yes.
I lost it. I threw it away. I didn't want to look at it anymore, apparently, because I thought it was blocking my screen and it's gone forever for me. So I wasn't sure. I mean, if this is Jen, Jen was asking if we're doing the whole site or we stop where they stop. I think I've always stopped where you've stopped and made them continue on before they planned, but.
We're going to finish out the whole site so we can do images and all of that kind of stuff
Well,
today.
for this one, but I mean, in the future, do you want them getting in the habit of doing it this way or not doing it this way, but like the outline? You get to that point, don't you? Like Netflix, things like that. You're doing the documentation, breaking it down. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Okay, then never mind. I'll send that to you on break.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other
feedback on the notes before I switch back over to Amber Lynn? Okay, so general consensus is keep on going with the notes, Ariel. And these are posted in the daily outline and there's just a link right to them. So if you can switch over to show them in the C5 daily outlines. Ariel added that link from class, and then I'll update the daily outline. So we've got vocab kind of more as a weekly activity as opposed to like just dumping it in that outline.
I would if I didn't have the poll stuck in my way again. There we go. I have a hard time with the share on the top. Yeah, they'll be in the date for their. Sorry, I'm trying to close this out of there. I'm normally putting them in the resources. The terms normally had their own separate place, but I mean, I don't know if you want to split that up or leave it where it is on the notes at the top.
Yeah, I'll update
Okay.
that.
Okay,
Okay, I'm gonna stop your screen share, Amberlyn. If you want to share yours, GitHub is really fighting me, so I'm gonna have to fix that on the break. For now, I'm gonna post a copy of my current code in Slack, and then I'll have a more permanent solution for you guys in the second half of class. Jen, I stop where you guys usually stop for the projects, and we normally will finish it out the next day. So we will be using this part of class to finish it out, get the images in and all of that kind of stuff. But I usually have some version of it that I'm referencing, like that GitHub link that kind of had it all planned out. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Do you know how to get the spotlight search off my, I keep trying to do control command space for emojis and the spotlight search keeps popping up for whatever reason. I cannot do anything before I get it off and I don't know how to get it off.
Command space to get it off.
Command space. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Amberlyn, go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look at your border.
There's this, and here's my code.
Okay, so the first thing that I notice in the browser, I'm going to request remote,
Sure.
is we've got our content looking right here. But if I scroll all the way down, look what I've got hanging out down here is my headlines and my ads. So that usually means we've got a premature div closing. And so if we scroll up here, here is our left col. I'm going to click on that div and notice that that div is not lining up with where we think it's closing. We say this is the end of the latest col, but it's really not, because if we click on that div, we can see it's not lining up. So what ended up happening here is you closed out this div for the col, then you close out the div for this row, and then you closed out the div for the col up here. So that means this should be indented. This is actually not the end of the second headline row. So if we take that one out and save, look what pops back in is back to use. So be careful here, because I notice it starts to go downhill with your indentations here. So this is advice to everyone. Don't ever indent using the space key. Always indent using tab, because if you do, you'll notice everything starts to line up. For example, we've got a space in here and that's causing issues. So sometimes it's best to delete it and then just re-indent it. And the same goes for this one. We've got some spaces in here and that's causing issues. So if we delete all of them out and hit enter, now notice we're back lining up. Those spaces will really bite you. So use that tab key instead. That will make sure everything is lining up there. Then we bring this over. We delete these and tab back over. And now we've got a div, and it's even showing you on this line that should come over one. We've got a div here that should be over here. And then we've got this final div. And if we scroll up, it doesn't highlight anything up here. So it turns out you had 2 extra divs in there. So I'm going to take this one out. Now, keep in mind, these notes might not be right anymore. But if I save that, everything still looks right over here. And we can kind of breathe a sigh of relief because our indentation is back up to where we want it to be.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Rain. You're on mute.
I am almost done with this web page. When I tell you I was up last night, I was up last night. However, every time with the middle column, when I am trying to add this image, it's going under my first column. Like I'm going through, I'm checking my end tags and everything like that. I'm just having an issue right now.
Go ahead, share your screen. It may be something that we're gonna fix in class in a second because we're gonna go over the image, but share your screen. Let's just see if it's a quick 30-second fix.
Okay.
And I know this is really boring for all the other students, but hopefully you'll see some errors in here that you'll be able to learn from. So the first thing that I noticed over here is that we've got this weird kind of JavaScript code showing up in here, and that's really what we don't want. So in order to fix this, sometimes we do a manual refresh of the page and that fixes it. In this case, it isn't. So I'm actually going to close out of this entirely, and it turns out we've got a bunch of them open, so that's all right. I'm going to switch back over to your code, which I think is this it?
That's my code. And so I ended up not using your GitHub images because it was like skateboarding and stuff. And
yeah, that's fine.
I'm just using the same like URL. And then I noticed that when I put the second image under ads,
yep,
it was red, and I made sure I had enough brackets.
So that's closing your div. That's right. This div is lining up with this one. So I am going to just comment these all out right now, and we're going to see what that does. So before we get to any of your images, I'm going to stop your live server and restart your live server. Now we've got everything lined back up. So that's a good start. So I'm going to go back to your code. I'm going to add in just one of your images. Oops.
And some of my comments may not be exactly as yours. Like sometimes I may just type stuff into certain places until I get it right.
So what I notice here is you've got your class image fluid, and then you've got an alt tag, but you're missing your closing quote on that and a space. So if I put that in, now your image is showing up. So the issue there was just you were missing this closing quote, and that's going to be the same thing for down here. If we put in that closing quote and the space, and we take out your comment here, we've got our second image in, and you're good to go.
Okay, so let me have a rough draft sheet of what I was doing. Hold on. Right here is what I was working on. Let's see. So that right there, this is going to be my middle column image, right?
Yep.
I want to put that after the first column. Okay.
Yep.
But literally every time I do, it's going under the 24-minute. And I just want to just paste it so you can see what I have.
So be careful where you're pasting that. That's your middle column, right?
Yeah, I'm just pasting it there so you can copy it and show me where.
Okay. So all we need to do is paste that right in your middle column right here. And then we're going to make sure this one actually has your closing quote, so you're good there. And then one thing to note, image tags are self-closing tags. So we want to put in that slash at the very end. So I save, I come back over here. Now here is your image and your content. And is that the edge of your image? Yes, it is. So you might want to shrink that image down a little bit. We're going to learn how to do that in a second. But this is putting it in the right spot.
Okay, I swear to you, I was doing that earlier, and it could have been because of the errors I had, but it was not lining like that. So thank you very much.
That is important to note. An error anywhere on the page has the full right to wreak havoc anywhere on the page, right? So sometimes breaking it down and doing exactly what you did, moving that column out and saying, let me fix this first, and then move on to this other thing is the right approach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Am I done?
Yes, I will bump your screen share. There you go.
No, I meant with the assignment itself.
Yes, if you want to stick around, we're going to do Google Fonts and image icons and stuff like that, and prettier, but you're done with the assignment.
Thank you.
Last call for any questions. I know we were rushing in at the end of class yesterday, but important to make sure, hey, debugging actually takes up 75% of our time when we write code. 25% of that time is actually writing new code. And that is just the way of life. So the way of the life of the developer is spending more time debugging than it is writing new code. So important to pay attention while other people are screen sharing, because you may learn a lesson from them. Okay, so we're going to keep on going with notes for Ariel. We are going, and future TAs. We are going to get better about posting the code at the end of the day so you guys can reference it before class the following day. And we are going to step up our game for vocab. So I will try and get that together for both the vocab that we've done from the past week and then rolling forward, just having that vocab terms list for day 1 of the week. And then by day 4 of the week, we'll make sure that any other vocab terms that we've added get captured in there. Did I lose anything in that summary? Okay, so we are going to finish out our site with some images, get that final section done, get the add section showing up, and then we're going to learn how we can use Google Fonts and how we can add icons as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. I am going to head over to my code folder. I'm going to head over to week 3. I'm going to right click on day 1 and I'm going to go down to duplicate. That's going to make my D1 copy. I can either right click on that and hit rename, or I can hit the return button on my keyboard once, type in D2 and hit enter, and that will go ahead and rename it for me. From there, I'm going to take my, where did my code go? Give me 1 second. I move that into a different folder. Okay, let me try that copy step again. Right click, duplicate, rename to day 2, take day 2, drag it into VS Code to pop that open. I'm gonna hit my go live button, make sure I can see where we left off in the browser. I'm gonna pop open my index.html. I'm gonna pop open my style.css, and I'm gonna anchor that down at the bottom of the screen so we can reference both of them. And then I am going to drop the read-only live share link in the chat. Remember to join that live share link, file new window first. Go to the live share icon over on the left. Do not use the one at the bottom. Go to live share on the left. Go ahead and hit that join button, continue as anonymous, enter your name, hit enter, paste the link, and then you should be good to go. You guys have
Matt.
minutes. Yes.
Sorry, is there a reason mine comes up read only every time? Is that a setting I need to fix on break?
No, I share read-only access so students can't edit my code.
So I can't edit your code. I heard what you said.
All right, looks like most of you guys are in. Anyone need help before we keep going? Natasha, there are two of you in Zoom and it's very comical.
Wait, did you notice that they don't line up though? So if
Yeah,
she
there's a
they
slight
move in
delay
different
between
ways.
one.
Listen, I heard an echo and then I closed everything out and then I came back and there's still two of me. I have no idea. I don't.
We're definitely in the multiverse because there's
I
like one
can't.
is quicker than the other, one's a little bit higher resolution. It's very amusing.
I hate it here.
Okay. We're gonna dive in. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up. Let me see if this is working. I don't know if it is yet. No, of course not. Okay. I'm going to pull up the version, the final version, so we have something to reference. Okay. This is what we are working our way to. And the first thing I notice is that there is an image at the top of my column where I've got the word headlines. So before we can get our image working, we got to go get our image first. So I'm going to go to unsplash.com. Pexels is another popular one, Pexels, I believe. This is a really popular free stock footage that tends to be copyright free in case you're looking for another one. We can literally use any image that we would like here. It looks like night sky is trending, so we're gonna pick that one. I don't know why I picked that, but I did. This looks like a cool one, so I'm gonna go ahead and hit the download button, and that's gonna put it in my downloads folder down here. I don't want to open it quite yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that image and drag it into the left sidebar of my VS Code. That's going to move the image from my downloads folder into my day 2 folder so that I can work with it. Now, Unsplash has these really long file names that is a pain to work with. So instead, I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to go down to rename, and I'm going to call this headline1.jpg. Don't change your file extension. So if it's a .png image that downloads or some other one, make sure you leave that file extension the same, because otherwise you'll confuse the browser. Then I'm going to go ahead and close out of this image. I'm going to go find where I want my image to show up. And I don't need my H2 for headlines anymore. What I'm going to use is my IMG tag. Important to note that IMG is a self-closing tag. We don't have a closing tag for IMG, so we put that slash at the end of it. Now, the IMG only requires one attribute called SRC, or the source. And then we need to use this exact same file name right here. So I'm going to say headline1.jpg and save that. Once I have that saved, I'm going to come back over to my browser. And what I'm going to see is my image, but it is massive. So there are two ways to fix that. One, I could come down into my CSS and say, hey, I would like my image to be a width of 100%. What's 100%? 100% of the available column space. So it won't get bigger than the starting column here or go over this line here. This is actually really nice because when I scale up my site, you notice my image gets a little bit bigger. And when I shrink it down, it also shrinks down with the page. However, this gets really cumbersome to do that image width 100% every time we need an image. So the other way of doing it is by using Bootstrap. We can add a class right to our image and say image fluid. Now, where else did we see that image fluid? We also saw that image fluid in our container. Well, what's the fluid doing? We're saying spill out like a fluid that you would have and take up the available space, but don't overfill it. Don't go over the bounds of the container. So in this situation, we were able to add our image fluid that set our width to 100% and pulled off exactly what we wanted it to do. I'm going to pause there because getting images to work are one of those things that are really tricky the first time. And then whenever else you need to use an image, it tends to be a lot easier. So I'm going to give everyone just a minute. I'm going to run through those steps again. I headed over to Unsplash. I found an image that I wanted. I hovered over it and I hit this download button. Then I took that image from my downloads folder and moved it into my VS Code over here. I right-clicked on that and I renamed it. And it's important to note that spaces and file names may work for you, but spaces and file names are the devil incarnate for developers. We don't like spaces in our file name. So dashes are fine, underscores are fine. We don't like spaces. Once we rename that to a more friendly file name, we are able to go find where we want to put our image. And I am able to use that class image fluid to get my image to size up so it's not huge in my page over here. I do prefer using this class image fluid if we are using a bootstrap file, because it's much easier to just throw that class on whatever images that we want and not have to write our own custom CSS down here. So whenever we can use bootstrap CSS instead of custom CSS that we have to write, I do tend to like that method a little bit more. Anyone need help with their image?
I just have a question about the image. So once you put it up there, how did you get it to go into the actual code space?
Yep. So I deleted the H2. I'm sorry. You have the image over here and you have it renamed.
Yes.
Okay. So now I deleted my H2 in my col6 and I added in this img tag. And then the source file name needs to line up with whatever the name of the file is over here. Once you have that in and save, it should just appear in your code.
Okay, thank you.
Danny, what's up?
Well, I had to plug in my computer, so I missed all of that, so I just need help. I downloaded a picture,
Okay.
but that's where I'm at.
No problem. Share a screen. Going through the steps with you might help someone else.
Yeah.
I'm telling you guys, nothing causes me more anxiety when you share your screen and you've got like 4% left on your battery. And I'm like, can I help them before their battery dies? Okay, so
That's
I'm
where I
going
would have been
to
at.
request remote control. Okay, so I'm going to check in your files here, and you don't have your image loaded in here yet. So what I'm going to do,
Yeah, no.
you are a full screen user, but you've got your downloads in here. I'm going to grab this image. Do you have a preference of which one you'd like to use? Okay, I'm going to grab this one, dump it in there, and it's got this really long file name that's going to be unwieldy to work with. So I'm going to right click and rename it as space. I don't know, doesn't matter. Going to close out of it down there. Then I'm going to come down and I want to figure out where do I want that to go. Our final product doesn't actually have this H2 in it. We were just using that to kind of test out the columns. So I'm going to delete that and we use an image tag. This is a self-closing tag, so it's got the slash at the end of it. And what we do is we add in an SRC, which stands for source, and we're going to say space.jpg. So we match whatever the file name is here. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go hopefully back to your live share, maybe here. And we get our image in, but it's huge. So the way we fix that is we come in here and we add in an additional attribute. This one's going to be the class, and we use image fluid. That comes in from Bootstrap and basically says, hey, just make it fit in between these columns. And that's it. You're good to go and all caught up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Max.
No problem. Anyone else need help?
You got a couple in the chat who are stuck.
Oh, Taylor, you're up next. Did that help you get through the steps, or do you still need help?
So I'm still trying to see if it helped me.
Okay.
Okay, so I got the SRC with the file name and the class with image fluid in there.
Yep.
And I just got the little icon that's like it's trying to load the image, but it's not loaded.
So that means either the image is not in the W2 folder that we've got, or the D2 folder that we've got our code in, or your file name doesn't match up with the SRC that you put in.
Okay, let me look into the folders. So that might be the easy fix.
And Jen, that's a good note. It is
It's
not the word image spelled out. It is img-fluid. So if you're having issues with your image being too big, make sure it is img fluid.
Nope, I got the image in the folder. The spelling is exactly the same.
Go ahead, share your screen. Let's take a
Oh
look.
no, oh, I think I see it. I think I see it. That worked. Okay. I figured
Cool.
it out. I had an extra letter in JPEG.
Good work. Oh, that is super annoying, isn't it? That you can
Yeah.
sometimes you have the .jpg and sometimes a JPEG.
Yeah.
Annoying.
Yep, that was it. Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else need help?
I do. My image is there, but it is taking up the full middle column, like from top to bottom. And I wanted to get it smaller.
Okay, so
So
share
I
your
should be able
screen.
to tag an ID, right?
You can
in
tag
there?
it with an ID and then use a height instead of a width, and that should shrink it up.
Oh, okay. Let me try that. Oh, well, I'll share my screen.
And that's a good note, right? Of sometimes the image fluid, we can get away with it. But if you've got a vertical image that you want to shrink down, you totally can use an ID to get that to be smaller.
Okay, so it's there, but it is taking up this full. So I would just put an ID right up in here.
Yep.
And then. And then I would just use height.
Yep. And try like 200 px.
Okay, so I would just have to play around with the sizing to get it the right.
Yes. And the other thing that I'm going to show you is if you wanted that centered, what you could do, and let me make sure I'm not leading you down. I believe what you could do is this trick where you say the margin on that image should be 0 on the top and the bottom, but auto on the left and the right. Oh, I knew that was going to bite me in the butt. Laptop. Sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. So the other way of doing it is, you know, let me just look at my code really quick as to. I don't know how I pulled that off on mine. The other way that you can do it is if you put the whole image in a class called Text Center. And then grab the whole image and put it in that div.
Max, I'm wondering if because hers is horizontal or hers is vertical, if that's why I had that issue with a project earlier this week. And no matter
be.
what I did, I had to change it back to a horizontal picture. I wonder if that's what the difference is for her.
Yeah, so that's totally fine. And sometimes you want to use height instead of width. What I don't recommend is using both, because if you end up putting a width on this, you'll see that you can like distort out the image. And that's a very common mistake that I see beginners make. So I recommend only using height and not width, or only using width and not height. But this is a good trick if you put it in a text center, that way that you can have the image centered out without having it be huge or feel like the design is off. Does that make sense, Tara?
Yes. Yes. How would I then edit out like the white space? Like we then is that where we would start using like our pattern and margin? Or
Well,
I'm just trying to figure out how to make it all come together. Like when
yeah,
we're
so there's only so much that you can ask the code to do, right? So if you wanted to, you could set this width to 100%, and that's going to stretch it all out for you, but then it makes it look really ugly, right? Because you're distorting the image. You could take out the height and use the width of 100, and then it's going to look right, but now it's taking up a ton of space. And so the right answer may be, well, if I really want to use this image, maybe I'm going to go into this headline 1 and crop it so this whole top part of the image isn't in there. And then that may make your design come together a little bit more. But you can't just tell the code, hey, crop that out. It would be much easier to open this up in Preview or some other application, remove this part of the image, and then that may work better for you.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And these are all challenges of design, right? Sometimes we see the mock-up and the designer has picked this beautiful image for us, and then we put in the image of what we actually need to use, and it doesn't fill the same space. And so we've got to work with it. Sometimes we got to crop it, all of that kind of stuff. Rain, what's up?
On her image, just one more time, where exactly did you put the ID?
On the IMG itself.
Was it prior to, after the div, or after the closing tag?
It's in the image itself. So the same place that we put class IMG equals fluid is where we can put that ID.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we can keep going here. I'm going to look at my bottom page. You know what? Let's finish up this advertisement section, only because we did an image. Let's practice our images and get them finished up. So I'm going to go back to Unsplash. I'm going to go grab, I don't know, this looks like a cool image. So I'm going to download that one, and I'm going to download one more. I'm going to try for a horizontal one. Be careful. You don't want Unsplash Plus. Why are these all? There we go. This is a cool one. So I'm going to go ahead and download that one as well. Whatever ones you want to pick, that's fine. I'm just going for horizontal ones. I think they'll look better in the design. So I'm going to grab my 2 images and I'm going to drag them into VS Code. I'm going to close the tabs that pop open, and I'm going to rename them as add 1 and add 2. Once I get those renamed, I am going to go into my add section. I'm going to do my IMG src equals add1.jpg. Remember, your file extension may be different. I'm going to add my class onto that of image fluid. And I'm going to go ahead and add in my second image as well, my add2.jpg. My class of IMG fluid, and I'm going to save those. I'm going to come back over to my browser, and there are my images. Now, a little bit of CSS goes a long way. I'm looking at the final version of my site. I've got this advertisements up here, And it's the little touches that matter. Notice that this is in gray. Also, I've got my images here, and what do we notice? Not only is there a little bit of space between both the images, but I've got this nice border around the image. And that can be a really nice touch because right now these images feel like they were just plunked down into the page. But sometimes we want our image to stand out a little bit, right? An advertiser is looking at this. This image looks like it's got more weight behind it. It pulls your eye visually a little bit more than this image does. That's exactly what an advertisement should be doing, right? It should be drawing your attention into the page. So these are little tricks that you learn with design. And sometimes you're building out a page and you're like, something's not quite right. That image looks like it was just dropped in there. A border can go a long way. So let's go ahead and clean that up a little bit. Instead of it just saying ads and being an H2, I'm going to change this to a P tag. And remember, whenever you change your opening tag, you should also make sure you're updating your closing tag as well, because that can really throw the browser out of whack. I'm going to put the word advertisement in here. And I'm going to add in a class to my col3 called text center. I pop back over to my code, and now I've got advertisement showing up properly. Now I could add an ID or a class to this P tag, but I happen to know that this is going to be the only P tag I'm using inside my right column. So I would prefer in my CSS to go get my right column and target the P tag inside that right column and make the text color of that, not text align, text color of that gray. I save, I pop back over here. My God, Max, just color, not text color. I've got my advertisement showing up in gray. Don't ask me why CSS uses color and not text color, or font instead of text, or text instead of font. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm also going to use that same approach for my right col. I'm going to target my image, and on my image, I'm going to add a border of 1px solid black, and I'm going to add some margin to the top of it. Let's try 10 pixels, and some margin to the bottom of it of 10 pixels as well. I'm going to save that. I'm going to come back over here, and just like that, maybe a little bit too much margin on the top. Let's try 5 instead. Just like that, our advertisement section starts to come a lot better together. I might actually have, nope, that looks pretty similar to my last version. So I'm going to pause there. Let you guys catch up. I'm actually going to start a poll to see where you guys are at. Remember, if you do have it working, go back through, make sure you understand level by level where you're at. Blush, what's up?
So yesterday I had added these ad images as links. But now following this, I added them as just files right there. So now the go live, the web page is just showing like one image, not the other two. And I've checked the file name and everything.
Share your screen. Let's take a look.
Okay. All right. Do you see my screen?
I do.
Okay.
So I am wondering. 1 and 2. I'm wondering if the slash is what's causing your problem. It shouldn't be, but it might be the Go Live server. Try taking that out and seeing. Oh, that's
Yeah.
weird.
Yep. So yeah, the other one's this one, and it doesn't show. I tried taking off this CSS associated with it if it was doing anything, but still it doesn't show anything.
Weird. Okay, let's see what happens. If we go into inspect, and here's that, and then if we hover over it,
It's showing this extra JQ, yeah, something. I don't know where that's coming from.
all right, so Chrome does this cool thing that you can right click on it and then say open a new tab to make sure that it can load the image, and it can. Okay, let's try. So let's try showing add one twice.
But yeah,
and
works.
that works fine. So my only guess is that this actually isn't a JPEG. Did you accidentally like rename the file extension?
I actually did rename both of them, and the first one worked. So I renamed it. Yeah.
This one might be a PNG image.
Oh, got it.
Nope. That's really weird because Chrome can load.
Right. Oh, it says PNG over there. Oh, because you added it as PNG.
Yeah.
How about I try it with some other image and see if it works?
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I really have no idea why that particular image is not working.
Yeah,
That's got me stumped.
No problem. Probably the extension. You're right. So let me give it a try. Thank you. Just stop
Yep.
sharing.
Yeah, I gotcha. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, let me check in on that poll. Okay. Does anyone need help? We got our images loaded in?
Max,
Yes.
my center image is not centered. And I don't know how to do that.
Okay, share screen. Let's take a look. And Danny, I'll come to you next. Okay, let me see it in the browser.
Can you see that or no?
Yeah, so it is centered in the column.
It's showing up centered now.
Maybe you fixed something without even realizing it.
Who knows? All right, thank you.
Yep. Danny, you're up.
I was just a little behind, so I don't know where I'm at. So that's why I was just raising my hand because I was panicking.
All right, share your screen. Let's take a look.
There it is. Oh, there we go. Come on.
Okay, so looks like you've got your images in, their image fluid. You've got your space image in, you've got your CSS in. So let me see what you've got in the browser.
I just didn't know if I was messed up or not, so I just wanted to raise my hand just in case I needed the help.
Switch over to the browser. Let's take a look and see what you can see. Go to your document tab up at the top. Yeah, you're all caught up. You're good
Okay,
to go.
awesome. Thank you so much, Max.
Yep. Okay, we're going to use that 5 minutes right before break just to practice our HTML. If you feel like you have mastered HTML and you do not need the practice, you do not need to follow along with me, but I just want to wrap up this site and have it finished and all buttoned up. So to do that, I'm going to look at my final one, and I've got some breaking news and another headline down here. So all I'm going to do is bang those out. I'm going to come in after my image, and I kind of want to group all of this together. So I'm going to make a div. I'm going to say class equals article. Why am I doing a class instead of a ID? Well, because I'm going to have multiple articles here, and I may want to style them together. So I'm going to do, I guess, an H5. I don't know, see how it looks. And we'll say breaking news headline. And then I'm looking at my design here, and we've got some tagline going on down there, right? So I'm going to do another P tag, and I'm going to say tagline text goes here. Then I come back over and I've got this author information. So instead of just calling that gray text, I may have multiple gray texts all over my site that use different grays. So I prefer, and this is personal preference, this is not anything to say that the entire industry does this, but I prefer to name it based off of the content than to name my classes off the styling. Some people don't agree with that. So just a warning there. I'm going to do another P tag, and I'm going to say Max Matthews. And I think I put the time that it was published, and then I'm going to add my class on that of author. Then I've got some bullet points down here. So I'm going to do a UL for unordered list. That's how I get my bullet points. Shocking fact. Ooh, I don't know. I'm ready for break just as much as you guys are. Okay, I'm going to save that. I'm going to come back over to my browser, and I'm going to look, and here it all is. And man, do we have a lot of space in there. One disadvantage to using P tags, and we can prove this by going into inspect and hovering over it, is those P tags automatically include some margin in. And sometimes we don't want that margin. So in order to knock that out, I've got to be careful, because in general, I do want some space between my paragraphs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to target my article class, the article that I put in right here, and I'm going to target all the P tags in it and say the margin on the bottom should be 0px. I'm going to make sure I spell article right, because I spelled it wrong.
Spell check.
Article. I come back over here and boom, I'm looking pretty good and I'm in business. I think a little space underneath the headline is nice. The tagline looks nice. I'm also going to target my author class and make that color of gray. Fun fact, you can spell gray either the American way or the British way. You can spell it with an A or an E in your CSS. Both of them work. And I will intermix them, so I apologize. I come over here, I've got that in gray. Not only is all of that looking good, but I can very easily, because I've been following on my indentation, I can look at this and say, hey, this div lines up with the close of this article. So I'm going to go ahead and add in one more comment here. End of article. I'm going to copy this whole thing, throw in an HR, a horizontal rule line, paste in my other article, and say other shocking news. I don't know. It was written by let's say 2 hours ago. Other tagline. Save that. I come over here and boom, just like that, I've got my other article showing up.
I'm just more insulted that you couldn't put the first letter of my name. Honestly.
No, I just spelled it out phonetically. Sorry, Ariel and I have a running joke because some people can't pronounce her name properly. And so I intentionally spell her name wrong just to annoy her. All right. I know we went fast on that last section. That is okay. If you don't have this finished, you're not turning this in. This is just practice with your indentation, copying and pasting, making sure all of it's lining up, all of that good stuff there. So if you don't have this finished, that's totally fine. And by the way, my mother calls it Mac syndrome, where her technology will not be working. And then she just calls me or I look at it and it magically starts working. I'm sorry, it's just the way this goes. Just like going into the mechanic, right? It's making the noise the whole drive there. And the second the mechanic sits in the car, it stops making the noise. So I will stick around for a couple minutes. If you have questions, if you guys need help, this is it for content. So when we come back, we're going to learn about Prettier, we're going to learn about Google Fonts, and we're going to learn about icons. If there is time left after that, Mo, I totally believe you on the Apple thing. I believe I have unfortunately experienced Mac syndrome in reverse, where it's broken for me, and then I take it in and it breaks. We are going to do Google Fonts when we get back so we can learn how to change up some font families. We're going to learn about material icons and learn how we can add in a icon font to add in some things other than emojis to give our sites a nice kind of polish to them. And we're going to learn about Prettier after the break, which some of you guys will love and some of you guys will hate. That takes a little bit to figure out, but I will show that to you guys. And if there is time when we get back, you're going to have a chance to challenge me. Find a site design that you like, try and express that to me, and I'm going to build that out for you guys live for you to see how I would go about doing that. It's a suggestion in the feedback form. If we don't have time for it tonight, I may bump that till tomorrow. And just so you know what's coming down the pipeline, you guys, believe it or not, are going to build Netflix next. Your Netflix homepage, that is what you are taking on next. Do you ever think that your third site that you're building is going to be Netflix? Believe it or not, it's a really good site to practice with. So we're going to dive into that tomorrow. But tonight, we're going to learn material icons, Google Fonts, Prettier, and give me a challenge on building a site live to see kind of how I play it all out from there. Head on break, be back at 7:30, and I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes in case you guys have questions.
Max,
Yes.
I added the ID and everything to the image, but honestly, I'm just gonna wait for my one-on-one with you and go to
Okay.
break. Okay.
Yeah,
good.
that's fine. Totally fine.
I have a question.
Shoot.
Okay, so on when we open our files for the S code and we have the go live thing that pops it up in the browser.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So the last few times that I opened the live share, yours, and then pop it up, there's usually a little pop up in the bottom right corner, so you can pop up that like browser window thing and have your like results also.
Okay.
So I usually have both of them up so that I can compare my like what mine looks like to what yours looks like, which has been super helpful. But all of a sudden I can't get that to do it anymore, and I don't know what it's called, how to get to it, how to make it pop up anymore, apparently, because it keeps that little pop-up that pops up as being like I can't get it to do the thing today.
So head over to the live share button on my window.
Okay.
And then under shared servers, it should say localhost 5601.
Under what?
Shared servers. Do you not see
Under
that?
shared servers. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Double click on that
Aha.
5601. Now, I will say that that doesn't always automatically start on my side, clearly.
Okay.
So if that
Yeah.
is missing, just call me out on it. And that's like a 2-second thing for me to fix, and then you can get access to it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I was looking for an easier way to do it because I like the pop-up was not like it would pop up and then go away. And I didn't have time to click on it. I'm like, okay.
And
That
I will
is very
show the
helpful.
class that when I get back.
Okay.
Shared server, prettier. Sorry, I can keep 3 things in my head. I can't keep 4.
I feel that.
Icons and Google Fonts.
I'm
Okay.
lucky I can keep one some days.
Plus, what's up?
So remember that image was not showing? It's actually, I
Yes.
think it's a go live bug or something, because when I open the file index.html in Chrome, it shows. It's probably
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Jen, what's up?
I was just gonna see if you wanted to check out what I did and see if it's right, and then if I'm done.
Code is never done. That is something that
I
you'll learn.
know.
Only up to your standard of completion.
There you go.
Yeah, this is perfect. This is the final version. We're gonna throw in an icon in the login in the top right and like change the styling of the CIC news font. But if this were an assignment, it would get full credit.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Last call for questions before I go on break.
I gotta,
Oh, I can stop you. Sorry. There you go.
thank you.
All right. I will see you guys on break. Come on, focus. You can do it.
All right,
Nah,
Max.
I'm just
I'm
gonna
here
be
to bother
blurry.
you.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I can't see.
This camera hates me. Come on, focus. There we go.
All right. Freaking eyes feel like they're about to fall off. For some reason I can't get my 2 advertisement images to slide over to the right. I have
Okay,
everything
sure,
else
sure.
lined up though. All right.
Is it Sharon? Okay. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Oh.
My bad. Sorry, that was my bad. Sorry, I was on mute.
I was like, what did I do?
Okay, so you've got your
cohort.
your call 6, you got your call 3, you've got the end of your row. No, that should be the end of your row and then the end of your container. So I don't see anything jump. Oh, because this is my copy of the code and not your code. Can you pull up your code for me?
Oh my God, bro. That's my fault. That's crazy. Hold on. All right, my bad. Here we go. This is my code now.
Okay, let's give this a try. All right, I got a request remote again. And believe it or not, you're missing a little A in your class. Did that fix it?
Oh my, dude, I was looking at the entire break and I could not. Yeah, it fixed it. Thank you. That's wild.
All right, anyone else need help? Okay, so we're gonna get into some new fun stuff. I just wanted to do a quick message, and I'm gonna drop the link to this. I believe our link is this. Let me make sure. Yes. So on our Hack Upstate page on YouTube, there is a link to CIC C5. And then if you look over on the bottom right-hand side of YouTube, you'll see that all of our class videos are here in order. If you see a class with just the date on it, don't panic. That just means I haven't gotten around. I generate the thumbnails by hand and update the links and all of that stuff. So if you are like, where's week 3, day 1? I can't find it. Just go off the date. That date is the date of the class. This will be the exact same video, the same link, the same everything. I just haven't done the thumbnail and the title for it yet. Just wanted to drop this link into the chat. That playlist link is what will what all of our videos will be going into. So if you don't see that, the pretty thumbnail and all of that stuff, just means I haven't gotten around to cross-linking it and all of that, that kind of stuff. Ariel just posted the link in the chat, so if you want to add that to your bookmarks, you totally can. The videos go up, I want to say, within an hour or 2 of class ending. So if you are a night owl person, I've got a server sitting in my office at home that uploads all of those videos for you. So that is there in case you need it or want to dive into it. And then, like I said, within a day or 2, I usually go back through and cross-link everything. Okay, with all of that said, let's get a little prettier. So you guys have been working with your indentation, and you may notice my indentation is on point, but what if it isn't? What if this is not quite indented right? Well, all of our closing divs are right, so the computer should be able to fix that for us. However, if the divs are wrong, your prettier will just stop working. And we're going to see what that looks like in 1 second. And once that prettier stops working, that is a note to stop, bring out a little MC Hammer, and figure out what is going wrong with the code, right? So figure out why Prettier broke. We want to fix that before we write any new code to make sure we're back on track. So what you guys are going to do is head over to the extensions over on the left-hand side. You can do a search up at the top for Prettier, and you'll see right up at the top, there will be a blue check mark on it. It's got 31.5 million downloads. Go ahead and hit that install button. I don't have it on my link, but or on my screen, but there should be a blue install button. Once you have that installed, we are going to go up to the very top to the VS Code in our menu bar. If you do not have a menu bar, you may be in full screen. That's fine. Just shove your mouse up at the very top of the screen and your menu bar will appear. Go down to settings and then over to settings again. You can also hit Command- on your keyboard and that's going to pop up. From there, we're going to do a search for format on save. And we are going to go ahead and check off that format a file on save. Now, write this down because you may find that you hate Prettier. You get your indentation working the way you want it to, and you want it to stop moving the indentation around. If that is the case, this is the setting that you are going to turn off to stop Prettier from working. I will say probably 80% of students like Prettier on, maybe a little bit higher of a percentage, but there will be 1 or 2 of you that cannot stand it. If you are one of those people, going to settings and doing a search for format on save and unchecking that box is what will prevent this from happening in the future. Okay, from there, we are going to, anyone need help with that? Everyone get that checkbox on? Okay, from there, we're going to clear that out. Oh, Danny, what's up?
I have not got it to set up. Where do I go for the settings?
Settings. Excuse me. Put your mouse all the way up at the top of the screen, and there should be a menu bar where you can go to code, and then down to settings and over to settings. From there, once you get in there, in the search bar up at the top, click in that and do a type in format on save with spaces in between. And then hit that checkbox for the first one that pops up.
Okay, thank you so much, Max.
Okay, and no problem. And we are going to move on to the other setting we need to turn on. We are going to do a search for formatter. Format with a TER at the end of it, all one word. And the first thing that pops up should be your default formatter, and it's probably set to none or null. We want to open that drop down and go down to Prettier. It's like seven down on that list. Go ahead and set your code formatter to Prettier. Now that we've got that in there, I'm going to close this and I'm going to leave Prettier on for the rest of class. So if you notice my indentation is magically getting fixed, that's Prettier doing the work for me. Now, for HTML and CSS, people tend to not mind Prettier. But when you get into the JavaScript world, you may find that it is moving your code around in a way that you don't want it to move around. And that's okay. You can turn it off. It's totally up to you. But notice that when I'm in my index.html, whenever I make a change and save the file, notice what just happened. All of my indentation went boom and fell into line. This works great, not only for being able to save the file and just have the indentation automatically fixed, but you may be in the scenario in your code where you don't have a check mark or a double check mark in the bottom right of your screen. If you do, that means Prettier is happy with you. That means Prettier found all the closing divs and is all good to go. But the second that you get out of line and maybe forget a closing div, when you go to save that, Prettier is now angry, and it has turned red to let you know that it is angry with you. Prettier cannot work unless all of your closing div tags are there. The way that Prettier works is your indentation may be going to hell, but as long as all of your closing divs are in there, it can figure out what your indentation should be. But the second you miss one of those closing divs or have it misaligned, Prettier is going to go red down here. That is not assigned to keep on coding. That is assigned to figure out what div am I missing. Get that fixed now, because otherwise you're going to have other divs, you're going to be adding to it, you're going to forget about it. And I'm going to get into your code and I'm going to go, dear God, why is Prettier not working? And we're going to figure out why that's not working. And 9 times out of 10, that same reason is what's breaking your code in the first place. So use Prettier as your warning sign. Whenever you save, if this goes red down here, that should be assigned to you to say, hold on, I've got a div that's off. I've got an extra character somewhere. Something's wrong. Remember me saying very early on, we celebrate getting different errors. We celebrate making Prettier not have an error, because that is what is telling us that our HTML is understandable enough by the computer for it to be able to process this. So in order to fix this, there is no magic wand. All we need to do is add our div back in. And even if this div is terribly aligned, Prettier will still be mad until I save the file again. And as soon as I save the file or click back over to my browser, I will get my check mark, or if you have a double check mark, that's also fine. That will make our file happy and we're good to go.
Hey, Max.
Yes.
Can I stop you for a minute? You got a lot going on in the comment section. I got a couple people messaging me too. Can you go back through that one more time, please?
Yep. So we're going to go
Thanks.
code, settings, and down to settings. We are going to do a search for format on save. And that is a checkbox that you should just be able to turn on. And then you also want to do a search for the default formatter, or just formatter. That will also bring it up. And in this dropdown, you want to open that and select Prettier. If Prettier is not in this dropdown, you miss the very first step, which is going over to the extensions on the left-hand side, doing a search for Prettier, and then hitting the install button under the one that has 31.5 million downloads. If you want to adjust your tab width settings, that is totally fine. There is no issue in that. I leave mine at, I oddly like my HTML at 4 and my JavaScript at 2 for the tab size. But if you are a 2 tab size person, that's also totally fine. Or vice versa, whatever you want to adjust your tab size to, that's fine. What we're basically saying is if you do a search for tab size, you can see that my tabs in here are the equivalent of 4 spaces, right? So if I type space 4 times, I would be able to get over. If you like this level of tabbing in your settings, you can do a search for tab size and change this to 4. And that will make your tab show up as 4 instead of 2. So Quota, what's up?
So I just did the final step with the default formatter, and Prettier still didn't show up on the bottom of mine.
Try closing your VS Code and reopening it and see if that brings it up.
Okay. Do I have to get out the live share to?
No, just in your local code. If it's still not down there, try going down to that bottom blue bar and right clicking and seeing if Prettier is an option in that menu bar.
Okay. Alrighty, I'll try that.
Wayne, what's up?
So Prettier only fixes indentation, and
Yes.
with that being said, will it fix indentation on my style CSS sheet or only
It sure will. If we go over to our style.css and mess this up and hit save, you'll notice it automatically jumps back into the right spot.
Thank you.
No problem. Any lecture quota?
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm
You want to
trying
share your screen and we can figure it out together?
Yes, I'm trying not to log out of I'm trying not to log out of because this is yours, I believe, right?
Yep, this is mine. Can you switch over to yours?
So I think I closed out mine's on accident, but then left yours up.
Okay, so go File, New Window. And then File, Open Folder, and pop yours open. Or you can use the recents if it's in there.
I don't remember which one it is. So file what?
File, Open Folder. And then get your week 3, day 2.
Oh, I don't have that. I'm sorry, I only have a day 1. I didn't make a day 2 folder.
Okay. And then once you pop that open, does Prettier show up in the bottom right?
Nope.
Okay, stop your screen share and restart it because you shared only my code, not desktop 1. So I can't see the new window that you just opened.
Okay.
Okay, let me request remote control. And I'm going to right click down here. There we go. And we don't even have Prettier there. So let me make sure. Well, that's weird. Maybe is it because you need a index file open? Ah, that's the problem. So you need the right type of file open in order for it to show up down at the bottom. So if you have an image open, you'll notice Prettier disappears because Prettier doesn't run on images. But if you've got the right type of file open, it will show up in the bottom right.
Okay. Thank you.
And yes, Jen, you are totally right. Prettier does move your comments around. So some people love that, some people hate it. That's all part of the magic of Prettier. All right, are we good to move on to some Google Fonts? Okay. So I'm going to hop back over to my index.html, and I'm actually going to pull up some W3 documentation. So if I do a search for W3 schools fonts, you guys don't have to follow along on this step. You can see down here, there is a list of all of these font names. Believe it or not, this list of roughly 10, 15 fonts are the only fonts that you can safely use on your website without being guaranteed that they will work on everyone's computer. And here's kind of the weird part. You may use a font on your Mac, and the person who loads your site is also on a Mac, and they happen to have that font installed, and everything works the way you want, and everything is great. Then all of a sudden, the person picks up their phone and goes to the same page, and that font suddenly doesn't show up. Well, that's because the font isn't installed on their device. How do you install a font on your phone? You can't very easily do it. There's no way for you to install new font faces. But at the same time, this looks like a pretty limiting list, right? We should be able to use other fonts. Well, Google solves that problem for us with Google Fonts. So now you can follow along with me. go ahead to fonts.google.com and hit enter on that. This is going to pull up a bunch of font families, and you can scroll through. I recommend picking one in English. Pick whatever font family you would like to work with. So I really like Railway. That's one of my favorites. So I'm going to do a search for Railway up at the top. I'm going to get 2 different options. Like I said, you can pick any font that you would like here. And once you click on that font, it may be tempting to hit download family. That's not what we want to do. What we want to do is scroll down, and I'm going to pick regular. And I'm going to go ahead and hit that little plus icon. Then if your sidebar doesn't pop open, you may have to go up to the top here. It probably did. If it didn't, click on that view selected families. Let me just clear this one out. Does everyone see this selected family over on the right? Okay. This link tag should look pretty. Oh, do we have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to, you said it was fonts.google.com. I got there, but I don't see the thing about Railway. Or
Pick
is it?
pick any font that you would like. So I happen to pick Railway. You can pick Roboto or whatever you want. Once you get in here, scroll down and get to the regular section. So it will say select regular 400. 400 happens to be the font weight, and then hit the plus icon on that. Now you've got this link tag that should look pretty familiar. You could be old school and copy it, or you can hit this little clipboard icon and it will automatically copy it for you. We're going to head back over to our index.html. I'm going to scroll up to the top of the page, and we always want external style sheets to load in first, because if we load our style sheet at an earlier line, then put the external style sheets beneath it, the external ones will override our own style.css, and that's not what we want. So it doesn't matter if it goes before Bootstrap or after Bootstrap. I'm going to put mine after Bootstrap, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And you may notice that the indentation gets all screwed up there. But have no fear, because we installed Prettier, all I need to do is hit Command S, and boom, it fixed all my indentation for me. So I save that. I think I'm good to go. I've got my Railway in. I see that this is a nice font. I come back over to my news page, and it's all ugly. What step do we need to do in order to get our Railway font to show up here?
Add a font family.
We need to add the font family in our CSS. All we did is we told it, heads up, go to Google APIs, go to the fonts, go load that in. There also are some weird static assets that may need to load in with the font. Go ahead and load that in. Then go load in that font family for us so we can use it. Great, now we've got the font kind of installed, but the font isn't actually usable. We didn't tell it what we want to style. So I'm going to go to my style.css, and I'm going to go to my top bar. Let's just decide that the top bar is what I want to use. If I go back to the Google font site, there's this font family in here that says Railway Sans Serif. If I copy that, head back over to my CSS and paste that in to my top bar, now when I go back to my page, my font changed a little bit and is now in Railway for my top bar.
Can you do that one more time?
Yep. I go back to Google Fonts, right where I got the link tag. Right underneath the link tag, I hit the copy button here. Then I head back over to my code. I go to my style.css, and I happen to choose to make my font Railway only for my top bar. So I paste in what I have in from Google Fonts. And now when I go look at it in my browser, my font changes a little bit. Oh, that sneeze was like 30 seconds coming. I was so painful. Sorry. All right. So how are we doing? Did we get our font in? Now,
And
if
I
we
added, sorry, I just wanted to say I added that rule to the new site notes as well about external and internal style sheets, because I know I spent a lot of time getting them confused. So if you want anything else added, Max, let me know before the end of class. Thanks.
Sure. And the other thing that we can do, and Jen, I'll come to you next, if we don't want it to apply to the top bar, we can actually take advantage of our container fluid. So if I say, hey, go to my container fluid, which happens to contain my entire site, and paste in that font family railway, when I save and come back over here, it makes a little liar of me and doesn't work. Well, container, did I spell it wrong? No. Kind of surprised that didn't work. This is what happens when you don't test code and then show it to your students. If I put it back, does it style that? Nope. I broke something real good. Let's try this. Let's stop my live server, restart my live server. Take this out, save. There's my railway. Put it back in there. There we go. Now it's applying to everything. There's a live server glitch for you guys. Sorry about that. So now I put it in my container fluid, and you notice my entire site has changed over to using that font. Jen, still having problems? Okay. Go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look. Okay, so you got to be careful when you were in, let me request remote. When you were in your Google Fonts, you specifically picked the italic version of the Google font. And I know that because in this URL right here, you see how it says ITAL and then WGHT for weight. That is telling it to only load in the italic version of that font. So I'm going to fix that by just taking this section out, which will make it default to the regular weight font, I hope. And when we save and refresh over here, it changes over for you.
Okay, so how do I not do that here? This is
what you picked was this thin italic 100. Instead, what you should pick is the regular 400.
Oh, that's what I was trying to figure out, why it didn't say 400. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else need help? Sequota, what's up?
I did that and now my images are not loading.
Share your screen. Let's take a look.
Sharing the code, or am I?
Your code is fine. Or if you just do desktop 1, we can switch between them, or desktop 2. Okay. Let me request remote. Now, your images, I'm noticing, are not in this folder. So let me scroll down. Yeah, so somehow your images aren't in this folder anymore, and that's why they aren't loading.
Oh, okay.
So if you move them in there and then just refresh in the browser, it won't like live refresh it. They should pop right back in.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else need help? Okay. So fonts, pretty easy. Once you know the tricks, once you know to go to Google, pretty easy to add them in. Now, I'm looking at our login button right, up in our nav bar. And I think that we could do with a nice little icon up there, right? The problem is that we've only, oh, Tara, what's up?
Sorry, I was trying to look on my own while you were asking that. But okay, when I change my font and I go to inspect, I have a caution sign and the font family is crossed out, is a line in it. So that means that it didn't
Interesting.
take.
Share your screen. Let's take a look.
Okay.
Did it change the font in the page?
It didn't really look like it, but the font that I chose, I'm like, well, maybe I'm like, I didn't really check what it looked like before, and it was kind of similar. I don't know. That sounds probably crazy, but
No,
to
it
go
doesn't.
look, and I'm like, let me just use the inspect tool to see if it actually changed or not.
No,
And
that's the
it was
default font.
showing this.
Okay, so first thing I notice is we've got some red squigglies. What do you notice about line 6?
Oh, okay, here
And
here.
uh-huh.
Oh, okay. All
That's
right.
exactly it. Yep. So go ahead and save that. And you're good to go.
All right, thank you. I'm not used to even looking at that little red section down there for prettier. So I got to get used to that.
No problem. Montserrat is also one of my favorite fonts, so good choice. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm looking at my login my login button up here, and I think it would be nice to add a little profile icon there. Well, we've cheated and used emojis before, but emojis aren't going to feel quite right in a professional design, right? So instead of using just Google fonts, we're going to use something called the Google Material Icons. So go ahead and do a Google for Google Material Icons and hit enter on that. And the first thing that comes up is going to be the material symbols and icons. This is bringing you back to Google Fonts. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that icon or that link, and I get this page with all of these icons down here. And this looks like a good start. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do a search for profile. And I get all of these different icons that I can use. So I'm going to go ahead and hit person. And notice what we've got over here. We've got this other link tag that we need to add in. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And the good news is this link tag, we only need one of them for all of the different icons that we can use. So if you end up using multiple different icons on your site, you only need this one link tag. You don't need all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Actually, I lied. I'm sorry. I totally lied. Don't copy that one. Don't use that one. Scroll down to the static icon font. We want to use this link tag down here. This is the much easier one to use. Totally my bad. Take this one, copy it, come back to your code, and I'm going to paste that after my railway link or my other font family link. So I'm pasting that material symbols outlined in here as well. Before my style sheet, but after all my other link tags. I save that. Now I go back to VS Code and I copy this span tag. Under inserting the icon, just please make sure that you're under the static icon font. You might have to scroll down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to go back over to my nav bar. I'm going to find where I put my login under my top bar. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in that span tag. Prettier may have its way because that's now a long line of code. It may push things down to the next line. All of that is fine. So we're going to save that in. We go back over to our news page. And nothing works and I just cry myself to sleep. What did I do? Okay, live share does not like the fact that we modified the head section of our code and did not restart the page. So close out of your live share tab or your live server tab, excuse me, go back to your VS Code, hit the stop button in the bottom right. And whenever you modify your head section, apparently it's a good idea to restart your live server. So hit go live again. And when you have your go live, you should have a little person pop up. Success.
I'm lost
I mean,
as to where you put that in your login.
What's that?
I'm lost as to where you put the second copy paste.
Yep. I scrolled down into my top bar and I found where I had the words login.
Yep.
And then I put that span right in front of it that we pasted in.
Okay.
Anyone else need an earlier step repeated?
Hey, Max.
Yes.
So I'm having trouble with the font because I thought I
Okay.
had gotten it and I didn't.
Okay. Share screen. Let's take a look.
Shoot. Okay, this one. So there's
Okay.
there's
So
my first.
you're somehow in like Times New Roman, and that is my least favorite font. So let's get that fixed. The good news is you got your person showing up, so you're on the right track. On the next line, your little guy is over here. But anyway, let's get your font family figured out. So here's what's going on. The font that you picked. Oh, no, I take it back. The closing quote for the font name you have at the end, right? Oh, how did I? You have at the end right here. That should be right before the comma right there. One more. Yep. And then take that closing quote out at the end. Save and see if that fixes your issue in the browser. Oh, careful. It should say sans serif. You have sans serif.
Oh, just trying to be fancy.
Getting a little French. I think serif is a French term, to be fair. And you are good to go. So the only thing is that I put my little profile icon before the words login, and that's what made it show up on the left instead of on the next line down. If you scroll down to where you've got the words login in your code, in the HTML.
Where do I have login?
You've got it right. Oh, nope. Up a little more. You had it. You have login right here. And you want to take this whole span and put it right in front of the words login. Keep going all the way over that whole span tag.
And where am I putting it? Before login?
In front of the L. Yep. Isn't it so annoying when I draw on your screen? You're like, where did that come from? There you go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No
Max,
problem.
do you want me to add that into the notes for yesterday and today? To add that
Yeah,
material
that's fine.
in there? Okay.
Yep. Did we all get our little human showing up next to our login? Quota, you want to share screen? Lots of little steps to get this working. The good news is once you get that installed, you can use any of the icons in that library. And we're going to get more practice with using these icons tomorrow in the Netflix project as well. Okay. You've got your railway font in. Is your railway showing up properly?
I'm not even sure. Can I give you access to?
Yeah. Let me just make sure. Did you share the VS Code window or all of desktop one?
I just think desktop one.
Okay, so that should be right. Let me request remote. I'm going to, let me see if I can slide over. No, let me. No, I think you shared just your Visual Studio Code window. I need desktop one shared so that I can switch between your browser and your code. That's it. Perfect. Okay, let me request remote again. Okay, so I'm going to go look at your live server. And your font did change, which is, oh, I'm sorry, which is good. So you've got Railway going on there. All of that's good. Now we want to get your little tiny person to show up. So I come over to your index.html and you've got a link tag in here, but we never have link tags in our body. The right spot to put our link tag is up in the head. And so I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. Now that we've got that in the head, what I want to put into the little login section is this chunk of the inserting the icon code. So I copy that. I come back over to your login. I'm going to take out that span that you had in there, and I'm going to paste in the span that we got from Google. And when I hit save, Prettier, boom, automatically works for me. But we have made live server angry. No, your live server has decided to work for you. So your icon's in there and you are good to go.
Thank you.
Yep. If you guys want to think about it, it's two basic steps. Obviously, lots of little things in between it. But when you use that material symbols, copy the link, paste that in your head tag. That's what kind of installs the font, lets you use those icons. And then the second step is taking the span tag and putting that icon wherever you want it. So because it has the word person in here, we got the little person. But you may notice in your material symbols, all of these have names. So if you click on account circle, the only thing that changes is the name in that span tag. So if you change person to account underscore circle and save, when you go back to your code, wrong one, you'll see your person is now in a nice little circle. So this is an easy way that you can get icons embedded right in there. Jen, what's up?
So the code's on top with all of the adding and pasting all these hrefs and rels and all that stuff is getting kind of messy. Would it be like smart to put in end quotes where it is, or are these something we're not even going to have to worry about after we paste them in there?
Nothing you worry about after you paste it in there.
Okay. Thank you.
If you wanted to, you can add in comments of like, this is what makes my icons work, and this is the font, and then these are like the two files that need to preload before these files can load. That's basically what this pre-connect is doing, is it's telling the browser, and this is getting way technical, you don't need to know this, but this is like opening the connection to the server so that when it actually does load in these two font files, they can load in faster. And that's just to optimize your page so it loads as quickly as possible. But once you get this in here, like this is the messiest head section we'll have. Now that that's done, it won't get any more messier than that.
Okay, it was looking, I was trying to see the differences in them and it was kind of hard to figure it out. So I figured I'd put little comments after it.
Yep, not a bad idea.
Okay.
Shay, what's up?
My question kind of correlates with hers, but with all the hrefs up there, is there a certain order that we have to copy and paste like how we had to copy and paste the static icon font and we put that last? Is there a certain order we have to do, or it doesn't matter?
Good question. It will work no matter what order it's in, but that doesn't mean that there's a better order for them to be in. So the best order for them to be in is to have your bootstrap first, because your bootstrap is kind of the most broad. It's the biggest one you're loading. It's the one that you are probably most likely to want to override. So I would have my bootstrap first. I would have these two pre-connects second, because the pre-connects are basically getting the connection ready. So pre-connect second, both of them. Then our railway font, because it's more important that the page loads in our text before it loads in our icons. Then our style sheet for the material icons. Then lastly, our style sheet, because our style sheet is the one that needs to be able to override all the other style sheets that we're loading in. With that said, we're talking about milliseconds here for the load to be right. Once you get into production websites that are serving millions of users, the order matters a little bit more here. But for the most part, you would be able to totally get by if the order was incorrect. The most important one, though, is that style.css should be the last style sheet to load. Other than that, it doesn't really matter. And then for all of these meta tags and the title tag, they could be at the bottom of your header or at the top of the head. It wouldn't really matter.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? All right. We have made it to the end of the stuff I've got to cover tonight. However, you've got homework that you can totally get done in the extra 10 minutes I'm giving back to you. Your homework is to figure out what I'm building in class tomorrow and use your back channel to figure that out. So if you guys want to throw together a quick wireframe, you can do that. If you want to go online and say, I want to see how Max would make google.com, we can do that. If you want to see, I want to see how Max would make Facebook or Reddit or any of those, collaborate in that Slack back channel and figure out what would be the most interesting site for me to recreate live so you guys can see what that process looks like. I'm going to do that tomorrow, and we'll kind of play it by ear and see how long it's going to take me to do it. But if you are curious to see what a junior developer, or what a senior developer's approach is to tackling a site from scratch and kind of coding all of that out, that is what you guys need to decide together collectively in that back channel. And then I will start with there tomorrow. The good news is you guys have an extra 2 days in this module in your HTML and CSS that we did not have in cohort 4. So that gives me 2 extra days to play around with. One of those days I'm going to use as this kind of playground. You guys don't have to code along if you don't want to, but I think it was a really interesting idea suggested in that 30-second feedback of, I would love to see how we go about building a site from scratch. And normally the best way to figure that out is to build an existing site. So we're going to build Netflix coming up. That will be our next project. However, we're going to take a quick break in the pre-planned projects and build out a site, and you guys can ask questions as I go, right? Why did you use a div there? How did you know that was the layout? Kind of figure it out from there. Rain, what's up?
Okay, with our ideals, will you be creating just a prototype, or will you be teaching us how to add actual videos like you have with JPGs?
Yeah, we can do actual videos.
Oh, okay.
If you guys decide YouTube is the site you want to recreate, that's totally fine. I can see some conversations already sparking in that Slack back channel. That is great. I'll let you guys hash out whatever you guys ultimately come up with. And if you get down to like a top 3 sites and you decide out of all of you guys that you agree that those are the top 3, I can pick one that I think will be not only the most fun to recreate, but the most beneficial for you guys to learn from. And God only knows how this is going to go tomorrow. There were so many ways this can go off the rails. So fingers crossed going into tomorrow's class that this is a helpful experience for you guys. But I like a good challenge.
I just want to point out Max is really, really, really fond of CSS. So if you find something that's heavy loaded in it, I'm sure he would be more than willing to work on that for his own personal benefit as a senior developer.
Thanks so much for that, Ariel. I really appreciate the vote of confidence. I actually hate CSS, but it's an important thing to learn. Any questions for your homework assignment for tomorrow? Oh God, I don't like laughter. That scares me. Please keep it G-rated. It does get posted on YouTube. All right, that's all I've got for you guys. Have an awesome evening. I will see you all tomorrow. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave this meeting open. So if you guys want to use it to discuss, that's totally fine. I'm going to hop out of here.
Can they use it if I hop out? It'll stay open?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I just don't want to influence them any way, shape, or form in any way that might upset you or make
All
your
right,
life
well,
difficult. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the feedback.
Right.
See you guys.
Wow. I have no words. Rain, what do you have to say for yourself?
God, are we still being recorded? You know what? You all have a good
We
night.
don't have to say anything.
Good
You know what I'm
night.
saying.
I'm on Slack
All right.
later.
All right, man.
And remember when this movie first came out, it was like the best in like